This Gen 6 related video has nothing to do with the upcoming Legends ZA. I just wanted to point that out real quick. Cofagrigus, a Pokemon that has spent 34 years mourning his past life without even considering opening up his closed-minded worldview. A Pokemon so homophobic it has a slur in its name. I will not tell you where it is, because I don't want the YouTube assassins to kill me in my sleep. Cofagrigus has never been a great Pokemon competitively. Good in the lore tiers, sure, but its weaknesses such as low HP and lack of reliable recovery has kept it away from OU. Except in ORAS. Wait, this thing is A rank in ORAS OU? Above Landorus? In the generation that introduced buffed knockoff? Yes. Cofagrigus was ignored all throughout Gen 6, only carving out the tiniest of niches. After ORAS stopped being the current gen, the player base eventually began to recognize Cofagrigus' talents, and soon this living coffin ended up being a genuine OU viable mon. This is known as the Clefable Theorem, coined by me and only me. So if you, yes you False Swipe Gaming, are going to use this term in a future video, you better be ready to pay me royalties or an army of Cramrants trained in guerrilla warfare will be at your door, ready to take you down. Your smoke gun account, that is. Anyways, the Clefable Theorem is basically when a Pokemon overlooked by the player base initially becomes a popular anti-meta pick years after the generation is over, sometimes even becoming the meta. I have 3 examples of this. Cresselia in Gen 7, Charizard in Gen 3, and the Pokemon this theorem is named after, Clefable in Gen 4. To understand how Cofagrigus rose to OU status, we need to examine what the ORAS meta is like in the year 2025. Even though Defog was buffed in Generation 6, players often didn't gravitate towards using Defog for hazard removal. Because why delete hazards with these frauds when you can delete hazards with arguably the best Pokemon in the format, Excadrill? On top of spinning, Excadrill does everything. Steel types are important to have, especially in Clefable territory. No! Forfeit! And Excadrill is the best response out of all of them. Not only is it the only steel type in OU to tank 2 flamethrowers from standard Clefable on the Switch, but it's also immune to Thunder Wave. Excadrill can also set its own rocks, while also keeping the opponent's rocks out. It's also not passive at all with its crazy high physical attack and strong stab combination, so you can get away with running minimal attack investment and dump the rest into HP and special defense. And also speed. It can perform as a revenge killer or late game cleaner on sand teams, and all of these traits make Excadrill a great choice on Hyper Offense. And Hyper Offense is currently one of the most popular playstyles in ORAS, due to its variety of hazard leads and strong setup sweepers. All the more reason to use this edgelord mole. And guess what? Cofagrigus has the best matchup into Excadrill out of any ghost type in the format due to its massive physical bulk. It's able to tank max attack adamant earthquakes even after rocks. However, it's important to note that outside of sand, most Excadrills are going to lean towards its bulk to more reliably tank hits from Thundurus or Clefable, so its hit-taking capabilities versus Excadrill are even more consistent. After switching into Excadrill, Cofagrigus can fire off a Will-O-Wisp. Keep in mind, burn damage does 12% as opposed to 6% after Gen 6. So this could not be recovered by leftovers, making Wisp dangerous to switch into. Unless you were these guys. To no one's surprise, Cofagrigus synergizes well with fellow homophobe Ferrothorn, the spike-setting Dorian, forming a strong hazard stack core. Cofagrigus is also risky to Pursuit Trap, since it can either burn the Pursuiters on the switch, or outright tank a hit due to its fantastic physical bulk, and then proceed to cripple them. Cofagrigus also has another way to spread status. Toxic Spikes, which it gets for some reason. If someone can give me a lore dump on why it gets this move in the comments, let me know. Anyways, Toxic Spikes are amazing, because ORAS OU has very few viable Toxic Spike absorbers. The ones they have are Mega Venusaur, which requires a valuable Mega Slot, and Amoonguss, who doesn't fit on most teams. The rest, you never really see in serious play. Toxic Spikes are especially advantageous against offensive teams, as it becomes easier for bulkier builds to pivot around their threatening setup sweepers. These things Cofagrigus does are great, but not something worthy of being OU material. However, I haven't even mentioned its ability, Mummy. which functions like color change, except it changes the opponent's ability to mummy upon getting hit. Looking through ORAS OU's viability rankings reveals that a ton of meta staples rely on their abilities to be successful. Being able to disable them is a rare and game-changing trait. Unfortunately, it only activates when hit with a contact move, so no disabling Contrary or Magic Guard. But there are a couple targets where mummy is relevant versus. The main three being these megas. Mega Lopunny's Scrappy doesn't really matter in ORAS because there's like 0 ghost types in OU besides Jellicent. But it does mean its normal fighting typing has no resistances, except when this Wascally Rabbit hits Cofagrigus once. Mega Metagross is one of the best megas for its versatility both offensively and defensively. 145 attack on its own is already absurd, but Tough Claws jacks it up to ridiculous levels. While not a full-on counter, since Meteor Mash still does a hefty chunk on the switch, Cofagrigus makes it easier to pivot around Mega Metagross's coverage comfortably, since Mummy will nerf its damage output. But one of the biggest threats to balance is Mega Medicham. Because of its strong coverage and having over 200 base attack with pure power, this Pokemon is challenging to play around, let alone wall. That is, unless you have Cofagrigus. Mega Medicham has 4 extra arms, neither of them being able to dent Cofagrigus because Mummy will disable pure power. Cofagrigus would not be able to replicate the success afterwards. Gen 7's introduction of Toxapex and increased defog distribution ruined its main niche. Not to mention Burn was nerfed to only deal 6% moving forward. In Gen 8, the same problems were there, except it has now become a playground for Dragapult and Heatran, which Cofagrigus absolutely hates. As for Gen 9... well, due to his rampant homophobic comments, some of which were targeted towards Penny, Cofagrigus was banned from being on Paldean borders. Even if he was allowed, there was no way Cofagrigus would have a chance with all the new spin blockers introduced this gen. It's unfortunate, but don't feel too bad. There's a ton of Pokemon that never even got a shot at OU viability. ORAS Cofagrigus and others like it are proof that even after a metagame stops being the current gen, there is always something new to discover. Who knows, maybe in like 10 years Rivaroom ends up being some broken top tier in Scarlet and Violet OU. What do you think? Are you happy about Cofagrigus' success? Or do you hate how successful it is right now? Thank you for watching, and remember, revenge is like a two-headed snake. While you watch your enemy go down, you're being poisoned yourself. On the contrary, if it's a one-headed snake, then half your enemy's team is getting paralyzed.
I warn you, I am quite prepared to make an example of any undesirable elements, and don't think I don't know who you are.